A young woman found brutally murdered. A case shrouded in secrecy. And a justice system that may have failed her. Welcome to Night Coffee Crime. Tonight, we're diving into one of San Diego's most chilling unsolved cases. The murder of Donna Gentile. A woman who dared to speak out, only to meet a tragic and mysterious end. That Donna's murder was just the beginning. Her friend, Cynthia Maine, vanished without a trace, leaving behind even more questions. Their stories marked the start of something far more sinister. Who killed Donna Gentile? What really happened to Cynthia Maine? Now, let's take a deeper look into the truth. Donna left Philadelphia and moved to San Diego for a fresh start when she was just 17 years old. During the early 1980s, Donna worked as a prostitute along El Cajon Boulevard. Her lifestyle often brought her into contact with San Diego police officers, and she faced several prostitution-related arrests. Despite this, Donna understood the importance of maintaining good relationships with law enforcement. She knew that keeping the authorities on her side was crucial as she navigated the dangerous and often violent streets. Ironically, Donna had once dreamed of a career in law enforcement. Not long after moving to San Diego, she met Officer Larry Avrek. Wanting to experience the job firsthand, she went on a ride along with him. However, Avrek had no idea that she had recently been arrested for prostitution. When his superiors discovered that he had taken Donna on a ride along, they swiftly took action. Avrek was demoted. Despite her troubled past, Donna was determined to turn her life around. She eventually secured a job as a security guard, a step closer to her dream of working in law enforcement. With a steady income, she was able to get her own apartment and even found love, starting a relationship with a boyfriend. Beyond that, she had a passion for horses. She owned a horse named Fantasia and worked as a groomer on the side, caring for other horses while building a new life for herself. Although Donna was working toward a better future, her life remained unstable. She drifted between the streets and her security job, never fully escaping her past. During this time, she formed a connection with Lieutenant Carl Black, the officer leading San Diego's prostitution crackdown. Despite his position, he befriended Donna. She also stayed in contact with Officer Larry Avrek, keeping ties with those on both sides of the law. In June 1984, Carl Black took Donna on a 4-day trip to the Colorado River, with a group that included 2 sergeants. Later, Larry Avrek found out about this trip. 2 months after the river trip, Donna went to the police and reported that she had been harassed by Larry Avrek. After several meetings with the Internal Affairs Division, Donna was officially made a police corruption informant. Her job was to report on corrupt officers within the San Diego Police Department, and she was even placed on the department's payroll for her cooperation. Additionally, Donna's report on Larry led the department to uncover the Colorado River trip. Donna accused Avrek of exchanging information about police undercover operations in return for free sex with her. In her testimony, she stated, "He was over at my apartment a few times. I had sexual contact with him." She further claimed that Avrek had extorted sex from her in exchange for a letter to a judge urging leniency for her in sentencing on a prostitution conviction. According to Donna, Larry had planned to report Lieutenant Carl Black to the captain for having a relationship with her. He also questioned her about Black and the Colorado River trip. Avrek stated that he was using Donna to gather information about misconduct by his superior officer, Lieutenant Carl Black. Donna never accused Black of trading information for sex. She consistently maintained that he was only trying to help her leave the streets. Testimony also revealed that Black had given Donna $1,000 to cover her legal expenses related to prostitution arrests and had even contacted a probation officer on her behalf. Donna's testimony prompted an internal department investigation, which resulted in the firing of Officer Larry Everett and the demotion of Lieutenant Carl Black, who was later reinstated. Donna also filed a city claim accusing 7 police officers. Donna, who had been convicted of prostitution, began serving a 90-day jail sentence on March 13. While in jail, she wrote a letter to her family, warning them, "My life is in danger when I get out." Donna was released from jail in May 1985. She later testified before the San Diego Civil Service Commission, revealing details about inappropriate relationships she had with 2 SDPD officers. Just 5 weeks later, she was dead. On June 23, 1985, a man walking his dog came across the body of 22-year-old Donna along a dirt turnout off Sunrise Highway in East County. She was found naked, her body brutally beaten and strangled. Inside her mouth were gravel and rocks, not just forced in, but deliberately tapped down her throat. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxia. The medical examiner later reported that she had died a day earlier. There were signs of what is known as a brush out, meaning the perpetrator had used nearby bushes and plant life to erase any shoe or tire impressions from the scene. Because Donna's body was found outside the city of San Diego, the investigation fell under the jurisdiction of the San Diego Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's Detective Thomas Streed was assigned to her case. But then, an audio tape surfaced. Before her death, Donna had given it to her attorney, instructing him to hand it over to a member of the media and have it played if anything happened to her. On the tape, Donna left a chilling message. "In case I disappear somewhere or am missing, I want my lawyer to give this to the press. I have no intention of disappearing or going out of town without letting my lawyer know first. Because of the publicity that I have given a police scandal, this is the reason why I'm making this. I feel someone in a uniform with a badge can still be a serious criminal. This is the only life insurance I have." The audio tape was aired on TV channels, and its transcript appeared in newspapers. Some local news reports speculated that the stones and gravel stuffed in her mouth may have been a message that she was killed for speaking out too much. 8 months after Donna Gentile's death, another unsettling case emerged. Cynthia Maine, a friend of Donna's and, like her, both a prostitute and a police informant, disappeared without a trace. At the time of her disappearance, Cynthia was 26 years old and had a son. Cynthia's family identified several police officers that she had been working with as an informant. They also stated that Cynthia had been intimately involved with Officer John Fung for over a year before her disappearance. According to her family, she had met Fung in 1984 after being arrested for prostitution, and they had an affair. Fung had been working with the Narcotics Task Force at the time. Cynthia was sent to jail in September 1985 for writing bad checks. While incarcerated, she agreed to provide information against several police officers in exchange for an early release, according to Cynthia's sister. Cynthia was released from jail in November 1985, and just 2 months later, she vanished without a trace. As questions lingered about Cynthia and Donna, San Diego was about to face a terrifying series of murders. Donna's death was the first in a string of murders in which female prostitutes, street transients, and drug addicts were found in various parts of San Diego County. In September 1988, investigators from the San Diego Police Department, San Diego County Sheriff's Department, and District Attorney's Office created the joint San Diego Metropolitan Homicide Task Force to investigate the killings. The number of victims increased to 43. In 1990, The state attorney general's office was added to investigate possible police corruption associated with the slayings. Donna's murder and Cynthia's disappearance were investigated by the task force. Although Cynthia was missing, her case was treated as a potential homicide. The local press later dubbed these cases the prostitute killings, due to the fact that most of the victims were prostitutes. The task force has operated virtually in secrecy, even refusing to disclose its headquarters. Press conferences and news releases have been rare. Streed was one of the original members of the task force, but was later removed from the agency. Thomas Streed contended in a claim filed that he was transferred from the Metropolitan Homicide Task Force after he claimed that police interfered in the investigation of the death of prostitute Donna Gentile. Eventually, Streed contended he was demoted despite an exemplary 17-year record and forced into early retirement. For years, rumors persisted that some San Diego police officers had a hand in Donna's murder. When her friend Cynthia disappeared, it raised even more questions about police involvement. In 1992, a striking billboard was placed directly across from the county administration building. Designed by a group of 5 artists, the display featured a photo of murder victim Donna Gentile, alongside the letters NHI, an old police phrase used to describe murder victims who were prostitutes, transients or drug addicts, meaning no humans involved. A second billboard was also put up near the San Diego Police Department, accompanied by a gallery exhibition showcasing photos of the murder victims. The artists said they hoped to increase public awareness of the subject and to draw attention to what they called a flawed investigation, in which officers investigated their own colleagues, and some relatives of the deceased had not been contacted. The task force was disbanded in 1993. Authorities firmly stated that no police officers were involved in the murder of any prostitutes. Of the 43 murders, authorities announced that 26 had been cleared by arrest or investigation, leaving 17 unsolved. 9 individuals had been convicted, but Donna and Cynthia's cases remained unsolved. Donna's autopsy was the first in San Diego to be sealed and remained sealed. However, a search warrant associated with the case reveals key evidence. Semen and saliva were found in 3 different areas of her body. Court records indicate that an unidentified bite mark was discovered on Donna's body, and one of her earrings was missing from the crime scene. Additionally, the medical examiner's toxicology report showed that cocaine was in her system. Over the years, some investigators have suggested that convicted killer Ronald Elliott Porter was a suspect in Donna's murder and possibly Cynthia's disappearance. Avrek also pointed to Porter in his book. However, Porter is serving a life sentence, meaning his DNA samples would be readily available for investigators. Authorities also stated that if a person was a prostitute, DNA found on them wouldn't necessarily mean it belonged to the perpetrator of the murder. Meanwhile, Street has long maintained that police officers could be responsible for Donna's death. After nearly 40 years, Donna's murder remains unsolved, and Cynthia's disappearance still leaves a trail of unanswered questions. Will the truth ever come to light? And who is truly responsible for these heart-wrenching cases? Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey. If you found this case as disturbing and perplexing as I did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of true crime. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always question what's hidden in the shadows. This is Night Coffee Crime, where the story never ends.